Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is Chicago-based blues artist Michael Charles. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. I hope all's good with you there.
All is great, and those watching the video can see that Michael is obviously no stranger to KCCK because he's wearing a KCCK cap.
Of course, it was a gift from you guys, and I wear it quite often. And when somebody gives me something, man, it means something.
I was giving you a little bit of a hard time when we started because a few months ago you did a show in Cedar Rapids and your publicity folks said, well, he doesn't get to Iowa very often, so this is a real rare occasion. And now you're back. So I guess that means that Iowa's a pretty good place to play, huh?
There's two things. I either did something right or somebody begged. One of the two. I'm hoping I did something right.
I think that is definitely the case. So let's go back to the beginning just a little bit. Michael, you've had a long, long career in the U.S., but as people listening who may not have heard you before can tell, you grew up in Australia.
Yes, I did. I was born and raised in Australia, and I came to the US. It was probably about 34 years ago now. And I came out because I had a lucky break by the legendary Buddy Guy and his management bringing me out. And that's an offer you can't refuse, so to speak. And it was supposed to be a 2-week tour. 34 years later, here I am. Became an American citizen and all that. You just don't know where life takes you, and no regrets.
Chicago has truly accepted you as one of their own. You're a member of the Chicago Blues Hall of Fame, have played the blues festivals and blues events in Chicago for many, many years, of course. But let's go back to the beginning. I know your dad was musical and put your first guitar in your hand, but tell me about first getting into music as a very young kid.
Um, I was fortunate enough to have a dad that played guitar. So, as a little kid, I always saw this guitar in the living room or wherever he, put it in the corner after he was playing with it. And I would just pick this guitar up, which was, twice the size of me, and just fiddled on it. And then he would just walk in and show me things. So I don't remember, to be quite honest, I really don't remember not playing a guitar. It was there all the time. I took it for granted, to be quite honest. And by the age of, I'd say 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, I remember just jamming with local kids, trying to get involved with music when I was going to school and all that. I just lived and breathed that instrument. And to this very day, I still live and breathe that instrument. I just love it. And I guess it was meant to be. But without my dad having that guitar lying around the home, who knows what I would be doing. But so it's actually his fault that I'm playing guitar.
At what point did you realize the blues was going to be your home?
I think growing up I had the opportunity to remember, and I still remember when the Beatles came to Australia, and then going through the 70s. I remember going to the movie theater as a kid to watch Woodstock when the movie came out. And I remember going there. I must have went at least 10, 15 times to the movie theater every day to watch that movie and learn from these people. I was in an era where music really meant something. It was quite an amazing time. So I just was fortunate enough to be in that era. And excuse me, and all of the artists that inspired me were blues based, like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Carlos Santana. They were all inspired by the American blues guys such as Howlin' Wolf and Buddy Guy and Junior Wells. The list goes on and on. So I was fortunate enough to just to be, I'd use them as my teachers to learn. So I was learning the blues without really knowing I was playing the blues. It was just there. So to answer your question, I didn't realize how deep in the blues I was till I moved to Chicago. When I moved to Chicago and I sat up on, and I was asked to go on stage with Buddy Guy, and I had the opportunity to play with Junior Wells and Eddie Clearwater and Jimmy Dawkins, you name it. These are guys that I just saw on album covers, for God's sake, you know. And here they are. I'm shaking their hands and joining them on stage. But it just clicked like, wow, I could play the stuff with these guys with ease. So I guess the blues came from my people that inspired me. And it was just a natural progression for me. I didn't really look for it. I didn't study it. Because in my early years when my dad taught me guitar, he loved country music. So he taught me a lot of country licks. But I came to notice that country and blues, not much difference. They're very similar. Yeah.
They definitely have a lot in common. It's
Yeah.
funny you should mention Hard Day's Night because I was just listening to a podcast earlier today with Roger McGuinn of the Byrds, who said exactly the same thing, that while he had been in music for a while at the time the Beatles hit, it was going to see that movie that really coalesced in his mind the direction that he wanted his music career to go.
I think the Beatles inspired so many people that I think I'm still that I'm pretty convinced that Paul McCartney must be in shock how many people they inspired. You know, it's just, but they were there again at the right time. They changed. I mean, if it wasn't for Elvis and the Beatles, I think the popular music would be in a whole different direction. That's just my opinion. But I think those two artists, the Beatles and Elvis, were so historic and so influential to all of us. They changed the industry.
You live in one of the greatest blues towns in the world, Chicago, and I'm sure that you could find a great place to play almost every night of the week right there in the Chicago area. But you're also kind of a road warrior. You've been touring almost every year for, I think it's 18 consecutive years. And of course, you're on the road now. Why tour so much? That's a
Um,
lot of work.
yeah, it is. And when I first came to Chicago, um, I was playing, you know, in every club and every blues bar, and I was to myself, I was thinking, man, I don't need to go anywhere. I can just stay in Chicago and do this. And I did that for many years. And then I thought, well, let's just go on the road again. It's been quite a while. Then I went on the road. Then I realized that being on the road is how you can collect all your fan base instead of just having it all in one. Even though Chicago is an amazing city and it's a huge city, the population is, you know, one of the biggest cities in the world. Um, but as an artist, you want to expand. So I hit the road again. I thought I'll hit the road for a few months or maybe 6 months or whatever. But that turned into, like you said, 18 years. It just, when I'm home in Chicago, because people ask me, so where do you actually live? I go, Chicago when I'm home, because I'm on the road so much. But when I am here, I will do the occasional gig at Buddy Guy's Legends. And if the opportunity comes around, I'll do, you know, at the House of Blues. But that's about it because I'm on the road so much. But I think your career goes in all these different phases and stages. And this is where I'm at right now, is just hit the road. I just got back from Canada. We're on the road there for a good month, working every night in a different city. And it can get a little tough physically and mentally, but it's so rewarding, if that all makes any sense to you.
Oh, it completely does. And of course, lucky us, because that means that we get to see you in our hometown, as we will coming up. And I don't think we've plugged the gig yet, but you're at the Ideal Theater in Cedar Rapids, one of our great venues. And that will be on the 3rd of May. And I can find the website and have that for people as we get toward the end of the interview. As you've grown and, your music has matured, you started off as a blues musician. Of course, you were playing all the classic licks by the well-known bluesmen that we know so well. But of course, you've also written a lot of your own songs. And I couldn't help but notice that on the front page of your website is your cover of one of my favorite tunes ever, Wichita Lineman. So obviously, you've continued to not only write your own stuff, but also kind of revisit and pay tribute to those songs and musicians that inspired you.
Well, Wichita Lineman is so far away from what I normally do. But as a kid, because I've had such a long career, I've been playing for so long, I still remember watching Glenn Campbell on his television show that he had at the time. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there on the couch with my dad, and his playing was just over the top. And even when I watch him now, he's still so over the top. He was one of the best players of all time. And I remember looking at my dad, and I said, "Do you think I'll ever be able to play like that?" And my dad just kind of looked at me with this little stare, a little cheeky grin, basically, and he just gave me one word. He said, "Practice." And I'm still practicing. And the thing is that I was such a fan of his, and I've done so many interviews through the years, and people say, "Who's your influences?" And I will go down my list, Carlos Santana, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, and for some reason I never mentioned Glenn Campbell. For some reason, maybe because I was such a young kid when he influenced me, but it hit me one day, and I thought I've got to give a tribute to one of our greatest musicians, guitar players of all time. So I chose Wichita, and I changed a few things in it, made it where it was comfortable for me to do it, and that's how that song come to be. It was just like, it's my little way of saying thank you, Glenn, basically. So, but it's so far, and I play it at all my shows now, and in the middle of all the big guitar solos, and in the middle of all, doing what I normally do, I throw this Wichita Lineman in, and people just cheer it on. It's like, I didn't realize it would have such an impact, but I guess it's one of those songs, that people remember, will never forget.
You're in the midst of your Guitars, Music, and Miles 2025 tour with the Stop in Cedar Rapids that we mentioned, upcoming on May 3rd. What's your next project after you come off the road?
I've always got a project. Right now I'm working on a brand new album. I think it's just overdue to have a new album. I've just been so busy on the road. So I'm working on that, and also working on a live album. So I'm going to, we're just recording every night of every show we do this year, and then I'm going to put a live album together with that, and basically just continue on next year, get a new name for a new tour, and just continue on with touring. People say to me, like, I'll say, how long you been on such and such a tour? And I'll say from 1985, and I just never ended. We just keep changing the name every year, but it's the same tour. You just continue on. And so there's always something going on. I'm pretty much a workaholic. I love what I do, and I think that's why it doesn't feel like work. When you've got a passion for something and you can make it your occupation, it doesn't feel like work.
Michael Charles will be appearing in Cedar Rapids at the Ideal Theater on May 3rd. Tickets available at idealtheaterandbar.com. Michael, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so excited that you enjoyed coming to Cedar Rapids so much that you're back, and hope that we continue to see you often here in town. And I wish you a great show. Looking forward to it on May 3rd at the Ideal.
Thank you, Dennis, and I hope you can make some time and come out and join us.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.